and I am here with the amazing Heather Brantley. Hey, Heather.
Hello.
Now, Heather works for Curipod, but we're just like on a coffee chat this morning because everyone knows I love coffee. It wasn't a coffee EDU, but we could like claim it as one.
Yeah.
And she said the words that just light me up is student voice. And so we're just going to talk about student voice today. And why is this? It goes away in 10 seconds, I guess. And talk about how Curipod supports that. Because, when I use technology tools, I don't want to just use a substitution. Like, I could be doing this on paper, but not. Oh, great, then let's just do it on paper. And so I feel dismayed that a lot of technology use is just like, hey, how do I save some time to do the same old thing? But the same old thing is going to get you the same old thing. So how do we really choose? And I'm big about like limit it. We should only have a few technology tools, and those tools should do for us what we cannot do without them. Like, let's not throw away the Chromebooks. Let's make sure that when we do use them, they're super important. And I feel like Curipod is one of those things. So Heather, you have vowed not to open Curipod for 2 weeks. So everybody here, we're not working. We're not
We're
working.
not working.
We're not working.
This is personal passion for sure. And
Exactly.
I mean, Curipod is a personal passion for me. I did try to vow to not work for 2 weeks, and I'm not gonna lie, I can't stay away from it. It's so great, but it's just
I
it
hear
is
that.
what it is. So, but yeah, so I am in East Texas here, and as an educator for a long time, we were talking about going back into the classroom and different conversations just a little bit ago, and I can't help but talk about Curipod. It's just been part of my journey of who I am and what makes life for me so passionate is that student voice, giving students an opportunity not just to learn, but to learn from each other. So
Yes.
we're in a classroom, and if kids are just in there to grab and go, that's not something that they're going to be able to hold on to and maintain. So
Right.
if they are a contributing part of their education, like not just in the classroom, conversations in the hallway, at
Yep.
cafeteria, all over the school, like these kids have a lot to share.
They do.
We think about it as adults, our coffee talk this morning, how much we learn from just having conversations. Are we
Absolutely.
giving kids those same opportunities in an education setting?
Yeah, I love that. And sometimes we do, sometimes we don't, and I don't want a quiet classroom. I want the kids to be doing the talking, right? The person doing the talking is the person doing the learning. This is really where technology can help out, is because how many people can reasonably talk at the same time? Now, I love teaching middle school, so the answer is everybody, but it's not very effective, right? Without technology, we got to do the hand raising, right? One at a time, and just break down the minutes. You got a 50-minute class session. You have 20 to 30, 40 students. They're not given enough time where every student can really say something. So that's been one of my passions all along. Like early on, I'm using a Google Slides where students are going to add a slide. And why? Because every student gets to respond. I ask a question, they all add a slide. And that's cool. And I still do that. I love it. But yes, and there's so many other ways. And then my favorite way just to use technology in this way is that every student participates, every student gets a voice. So as you're approaching technology, ask yourself, is this tool allowing every student to have a voice? So Heather, share with us how Curipod does that.
Okay, so Curipod has some voting tools built in. So you ask a question in a classroom, and like you said, one or two kids answer because that's all the time that we have. So here with Curipod, every kid answers the question, and not every kid learns the same way as the other. So we try to make sure that we're giving all the kids an equal opportunity in their learning environment. So maybe it's not written response, maybe it's a drawing, maybe an illustration does better for that group of kids. So every kid answers the question. After the question is answered, they get to vote. And no one knows who the answer belongs to. So it's not a popularity vote anymore. It's not, hey, here's my bestie beside me. Unless you're peeking over, you don't know what they have written or drawn. So every kid gets to answer two at a time. And then it rates them through that to see who the top three peer chosen answers to be discussed. So we're still only answering the question most of the time to talk about two or three, but it was
Yeah.
peer chosen. Peer review is something we have built in. So even whenever every
Right.
student does a writing piece and gets AI feedback, we actually have even AI drawing feedback. So once those feedbacks are done, instead of us talking about something irrelevant or the teacher
Mm.
trying to pull that same stuff out of the filing cabinet, the filing cabinet that was in the corner that I put stuff in and never took stuff out,
Yeah.
but instead of using that, what you're doing is you're having discussions about what the kids are actually writing about, their interests, what they as a
Yeah.
class find relevant to the conversation. And the teacher's still guiding it. It's still,
Right.
there has to be a facilitator in the room, but it's student voice in the classroom, students doing peer voice. And every group of kids in every class is different. So the conversations are never the same. So as the teacher, who was like, I was, that math teacher, and I was like, did I already say this? Like, have we already done this today? No, it looks different in every class. So it helps the teacher as well with what's happening in the classroom.
Yeah, I also teach math, and I actually taught 6 periods of algebra, and I didn't teach anything else. Ninth grade algebra, and by the time I got to around to sixth hour, I'm like, I didn't you hear me the first 5 times?
Yeah,
So
no,
no, I agree with you. Like, when we allow students to drive it, right? We're having them, say this is what we're interested in, and we're letting that push forward what we're going to talk about. It's a lot more interesting for me. I'm
yeah.
not feeling like, didn't we already talk about this 5 times?
For sure. Yes. Well, and it also allows, like, I'm going to give you an example. Sixth grade, one year, math teacher here, but this little girl got a Yorkie. She brought it through the car line that morning, and we're trying to start class, and everybody is so interested in her Yorkie
Oh,
that I was like, okay, we've got to get going. So what I did is I pulled up Curipod and I made all the math questions that day about a Yorkie, and it even had pictures of a Yorkie. So I brought the Yorkie to my classroom using Currypod, but yet still able to fulfill my skills for the day that I needed to learn, and everybody was interested in it. So there are conversations that are happening in the hallway and that kids are more interested in
yeah.
having. So use those contents to help build your curriculum for your class. Make it where they're interested and they feel like, oh, my teacher heard me. My teacher actually cares about what I have to
Right.
say.
Yeah, I was teaching a math lesson in Kansas, and the math problem was you have a circular skating rink. Now, I grew up in Alaska. Skating rinks are not circular, so there's your first fail. And then the person didn't know how to stop on their ice skates. Um, who's ice skating now in Kansas? I don't know. I guess it's colder than California because I taught in California for like 30 years, or I lived there for 30 years. But I mean, realistically, we don't do ice skating here in Kansas. So like this, no one's relating. And then it was you're gonna crash into the side of the wall. The girl crashes into the side of the wall at this angle, and then she's gonna leave at this angle. And it's trying to give an example of where you inscribe a four-sided figure in a circle. I'm like, this is so contrived and ridiculous. I don't even know where to begin. You can't possibly care about that. You cannot. So, when you hear this kids are talking about something. 6, 7, la boo boo, la foo foo. I guess my daughter got my other daughter a la foo foo for Christmas. Pretty funny. But you pick up on those things, plug it in. Like, let's talk about what you're saying and tie it into the objective. To be able to do that on the fly is nearly impossible because I'm old and I don't know what these things
And
are.
it takes a lot of work. Like, I
I'm
don't
like,
want to spend
what?
hours cutting out little cards anymore and making it fun and interactive when
Yeah.
Currypod can do that. But it does a balance. So when you're talking about like a balance here, one of the things that Currypod also does is it's embedded those best teaching practices with turn and talks, four corners. Get the kids up. Let them go to
Yes.
have conversations, have debates, two truths and a lie, like things that make them stop and think and have conversations with one another. The high five, it was great whenever I seen that come through because I had right before I left the classroom, someone's made a comment, another teacher, she was like, how do you ever find time to do all of those things that we've learned in
Yeah.
your classroom? Like
Great
you
point.
have to like purposely think about it and write it down. Well, Curipod purposely thought about it, put it in the lesson, and it kind of prompts the
Mm.
teacher. So it really helps to have that reminder because a lot of times, as a middle school teacher, you get class started, something abnormal is going to happen, a conversation,
Yep.
something's going to get you as a teacher off track, and you forget about, oh, I wanted to do that today. Well, Curipod kind of builds it into the lesson to help you. So it's not making lazy teachers, it's help guiding busy teachers.
Yeah. Just give me like the quick 1, 2, 3. Like, I have something I want Curipod to remind me of to incorporate. How does that work?
So when you build a complete lesson, you can have it in there that like maybe you want to do the four corners or a high five. You can actually turn any activity. We have Curipod AI in the edit screen, and you can say make this into a four corners instead. We have went in. There's been a lot of updates lately. You're going to find when you go into Curipod now that we have more of those quick assessments. We have a Curie quiz. The vocabulary hustle was brought back. There's going to be, we have the chili peppers now and there. So there's one like every chili pepper makes the question a little spicier.
Okay, so not like the band.
Yeah, no, not the band. So, but it's just the heat, like the heat of the question. Like, let's start out with a
How
little low
spicy
heat.
is it?
Yeah, and you're building it up. We have one with trophies. We have a mystery one. So every time you get the right answer, you get a clue. So
Yeah.
at the end, you're going to solve the riddle with the clues. So we make it kind of fun and interactive for kids, but we still have that full lesson in there. We have AI feedback in there because I know a lot of teachers are looking for that. Kids need that instant feedback to learn. And not only do we have it built in to where they get it, we also try to follow up with a reflection, like what could I have done better? And then give the kids the same exact question. So then they can apply it right then. So, you know, it's kind of like used to growing up for me. By the time I got my paper back from my teacher, which we're talking about 30 plus years ago,
Yeah.
you know, it could take a while. 2 weeks later, you get the paper and you're like, I don't even remember what I wrote. So then I'm amazed to reread what I wrote because I need that reminder. But the idea of that instant gratification, and I know personally, like AI for me, I was a math teacher. English was not my specialty. So, whenever AI comes to emails and stuff like that, it's like a couple of times of using it for, oh, that's what it should look like, a proper email.
Right.
Now I don't even have to use it. I learned from it.
That's true. My son, he's 13. You can pray for me. You know, he didn't do his essay. He just didn't do it. And the English teacher is just like, it's too late. And we're like, that's fine. But my husband's also an English teacher, so he's gonna learn to write an essay. So we've been just like forcing him to write essays, even though it literally takes him like 5 days of us kicking him in the booty. But what I did is I had him write his essay that we were doing, and then I plugged into Gemini, and I'm like, okay, you know, at a sixth grade level, he's in seventh grade, but at a sixth grade level, here's the topic, here's the argument points, write a sample essay. So when he was done, I actually texted him this sample essay, and I'm like, just tell me one thing you notice about this sample essay that is different from what you wrote. And then from that one thing that he said, I'm like, okay, so now when we do the next one, you're going to try and do that. And obviously it would have been, I'm not going to write I could have written my own essay. I guess it's easy enough, 5 paragraphs. But yeah, like that feedback to allow me to see, like you just said, but I'm not doing that a 1 by 1 per kid. I mean, I could.
Well, you could, but by the time you gave it back to them, they've lost that writing,
Right.
Thoughts. But also, whenever you're talking about that, so before I joined Curipod, I was Heather Techie to You, and my hashtag was guide them, not block them.
Yeah.
And it was so important. Like, take what you're doing. Kids are going to use AI, okay?
Yeah.
They're going to use it. So how are we going to guide them through it? So I would ask my kids, okay, if you're plugging it in, ask it, what are 3 ways I could have made this a better paragraph?
Right.
What were my grammar mistakes? Don't ask it to correct it. Ask it to the same way that you would go to a teacher, like, hey, what do I need to do next? What can I do to improve it? So I think as we're doing this with kids, they're going to use the AI. We know this. But how are they using it? Yeah, like, can we get them to evaluate their work and give suggestions, but not actually correct and fix it to where they lose their voice? because I tell my kids all the time in the classroom, I was like, okay, here's AI for a job, and here's you. AI's worth a company can pay pennies, but you're going to need at least $20+ an hour to survive in today's economy. What makes the company want to pay you more?
Yeah.
Like, what makes you more valuable? Because if y'all can do the same thing, you've lost your value. So, I'd ask kids, I said, use it to help you improve, but don't use it to replace you. Because
Right,
if
right,
you
right.
and it can do the same thing, you've lost your voice. Going back to student voice is so important. Like, your voice has value.
Right.
Don't give it away.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love that. My 15-year-old keeps yelling at the 13-year-old, like, just put it into Chat GPT. We're like, obviously, since my husband and I are both teachers, we're like, no, that's not it. But honestly, who's going to win are people that know how to read and write, not just, take whatever AI does. You're going to have your own value. The art that you create, the things that you do that's not AI generated is going to come at a premium. It's already starting to be at a premium. You can see some of that out there. So, not using it is not an option. You're going to use it, but how do you use it? I love the guided learning on Google Gemini, but in the classroom, with the Curipod, giving it to you right there to say, okay, how to make me better. That's how I use AI in my everyday life, right?
Yeah.
That's how
No,
I
it's not
not
about
everybody.
being lazy. Yeah. No, and it's one of those, and I think, going back to our conversation before this, when we were in our coffee chat, it was heartbreaking the day that I thought AI had done me a favor. And then it was actually the day I realized this is not how kids learn. What am I doing? So as a middle school teacher, you can't leave those kids unattended for anything. And most of the time they won't let you leave them unattended. And there was another company that was an AI company that uses an asynchronous learning classroom. And I was so excited that they were sitting there so quiet working that I was like, I can go to the bathroom. Like, this is big. So I come back and they're still sitting on their computers. And I sit down at my desk to realize, why am I sitting at my desk? Because if anybody knows me, sitting at a desk is not
Why
me.
am I sitting at my desk?
Yes, why am I sitting at my desk? And why am I facilitating or watching them clicking through learning? And I realized nobody in the room, this is wasted quality instructional time
Yes.
that I just gave to my kids. And honestly, what they were doing is they were just clicking. They were flipping through, they were clicking, they might write a little bit, they were clicking. They were not engaged. I would say maybe 10% of my students learn that way, maybe. There's a reason that we put them in a classroom to learn together. And here I isolated them.
We're going to be together. Let's be together. Like, I'm just not a fan of saying, hey, we're just, especially in math, you see this. Kids are not successful in math. And we're just like in summer school, or we pull them out of classes altogether during the regular year and throw them on a computer. Like, you know what? Cancel math class then. Cancel math class because, AI is just going to be able to do those math problems for you. If you really need to know how much sod you need in your front yard, I literally can just turn on Google Gemini Live and like show it my yard and it'll calculate it. That's not even the point. The point is for us to have those rich conversations, to teach critical thinking, and to be together, to do things together. Like I'm pro like some of my class being asynchronous, but the majority of it should just be us having conversations and building on the kids' ideas and what the kids have to say. Like that's what student voice is. There is no personalization in clicking through.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, let's go as educators. As educators, we go for professional development all the time. If we were as educators to walk into a professional development and everybody was to get out a computer and learn independently on that computer, they just happened to get to sit in the same room.
Right.
What educator is going to walk away and say, oh, wow, that was the best I've ever learned? It's not going to happen. That's not who we are. We get in a room as educators and you can't shut us up. We are the worst students. We're the worst students, but it's because we learn from each other. We learn from each other's experiences and different points of view. And how can we ever learn to appreciate another person's point of view if we never heard another person's point of view?
Ooh, I love that line.
So that was just That one just came out. But yes,
Yeah,
but it's
well,
so
and it's
true.
recorded, so I'm gonna go back. I'm gonna pull out these gems. I've been trying to like take some notes of these gems that you've been saying. I'm like, Alice, it's we're recording this. You could just go back and
Go
watch it.
back. Yeah, but I mean, it is so true though. Like, what are we doing, with our students that we as adults would not want to do? One of the things when we're talking about being a part of society, if you're going to be a functioning adult, you need to know how to, one, respect another person's point of view, but you also need to know how to contribute, how to have a conversation,
Yes.
how to back up. Like, okay, yeah, I hear you, but where's your evidence?
Oh yeah.
Because that's what we're trying to teach these kids in the classroom. Like, okay, I hear you, but where's your proof? Like, it's kind of like whenever we're writing a paper, for example, you got to cite that. Where are you pulling this from?
I just
And
write
you remember,
Google.
I remember whenever,
Chat
like, we were like,
GPT.
and Wikipedia is not an option. So that was for a long time. Like, Wikipedia is not an option. Try again.
Yeah.
But are we teaching kids how to do that? Because if AI is doing it all for them, how do we know AI was not being biased in their pick of,
How do we know?
references?
We know it was. That's an easy
Yeah,
answer. It was.
it was. Yeah. So, but I think these kids have a different future ahead.
Absolutely.
When we talk about the jobs of the future, I think back, going back to I was in the school system in the 80s and 90s. Remote working would have been never anything I would have dreamed of.
Mhm.
And now here I have a job working remote. What was also fascinating about it, I worked in a school system where I partnered up with Discovery Education for their career connect. And my students were actually connected to a Discovery Education worker who was in marketing, and she worked remote. And when we got off the call, I would say half of my students, out of like 24 kids, there was probably about 14 who did not know what remote working was
Yeah.
and did not know that that was even an option because they haven't had the exposure. So then it starts a lot of conversations. But if you're not giving your kids a safe place to ask those questions, you're not aware that they're not aware of those situations. So I think that that's also important to make sure that you're giving kids the safe place to ask what some people feel are stupid questions. They're really not stupid questions. The kids don't know. And if you don't give them an opportunity to ask, you'll never have the opportunity for someone else to share the truth and the answer to it.
Yeah. I love that. So if I want to do student voice in my class using Curipod, how do I spell Curipod? Let's start with that.
Curipod. There we go. Curipod.com. It's free to get started. It's a free account. You get a hefty amount of free AI to go in, explore, have your kids jump in. We're really about more of the bottom up approach than the top down. Because,
Yeah.
a lot of times what happens is admin buys something that's really cool. And no matter how cool it is, when they walk in and say, I bought this, you're using it, we turn into one more thing.
One more
Let's
thing.
not be one more thing.
No.
So what we want to do is we want to give you a nice amount of free for you to try it in your class to see, is this a good fit for you? Are your students excited about learning? I can tell you they will be. The kids love Curipod. And I have a lot of teachers who are hesitant because they've never used it before. And this is unfamiliar space. Your kids are natural pros at this. Jump in and learn with your kids.
Right.
I mean, it's really create a lesson, go through, edit it, make it
So when you say
customized.
create a lesson, like I've signed up, then what does it ask me to do?
So you're going to go up and hit create with AI at the top. Okay.
Okay.
I said I wasn't going in, but
Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't open it, Heather. Don't do it. We can do it another time. We can do a demo another time. It's vacation.
Okay.
Be a good role model. It's okay.
Okay.
So you click
Go
on
in.
the lesson. Do you want to?
Yeah,
do you want
create a
to
lesson,
let you do
generate
it?
with AI, and then you're going to get choices. So maybe you want to do practice. That's going to be a section. Maybe it's going to be create a full lesson. You need, and maybe you only have a 30-minute class. You just write, I'm doing 8th grade, 30 minutes, whatever the skill is. Maybe you are a Google Slides lover and you already have great lessons that you've already created. Maybe you're a Canva person. You already have all of these great PowerPoint slides that you've already created you can download any of your slide decks and put them in Curipod and get those interactive components to it. So you don't have to start over from scratch. You have great things, but your students aren't actually interacting with them. So you can put those in there and it'll make it. And we do have test prep as well. So there is the other area is test prep. So we have also a lot of
student voice. So we'll talk about that on another episode.
yeah. So but test prep.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, but we do, we make it to where you just go in. So you create a full lesson or whatever it is. You're going to pick your grade level. You're going to pick what your topic is. We have a lot of 5-minute writes in there. If you just need a 5-minute writing activity, and it's go in there, just start with something safe, start with something that you feel comfortable with, and then explore. I challenge you to do something that you've never done before.
So if I'm specifically looking like I want to get some student voice, what am I looking for that I want to make sure that I try?
You're going to find student voice in every one of our lessons.
Ooh, see, that was the right answer.
Yes. So every one of the lessons is going to give those individual opportunities for students to respond to questions, whether it be in an illustration or in a writing. So every one of our lessons has student voice in it. So it's about giving every student the opportunity to respond, taking away from, back in the day, and we still do this in PD, but back in the day, like everybody was to draw a picture or everybody was to write something. And then what we're going to do is round robin, right? The first person's going to stand up, share. So what happens is if I'm over there counting how many times before I have to answer,
right?
And then I'm looking to see who's the last person to answer, because that's when I'm checking back in. No one's really paying attention to that. So throw that waste of time out the window. You can now, seriously, 30 kids in a room in 2 minutes, every voice gets to be seen and heard.
I love that.
Just amazing. So, and as a teacher, watching kids get excited about sharing and watching kids that you would normally not have participating because their name's not on it. So they say like, unless they yell out, "This one's mine," no one knows who it belongs to. So there's a lot of value in that.
I love that. I remember the first time that I shared a Google Slides with a room full of students. Just the energy in the room. It wasn't a great lesson. It was an okay lesson. Like what created this great energy was everybody got to be a star, right? All of their, I go through and I show all of their things, and in the same vein, I have to go through all of them quickly, but everyone's answer got to go up there. But the number one thing that I really get when I try to introduce this activity to teachers is, how do I keep the kids from editing each other's slides? Mm-hmm. You can't. No. So obviously Curipod solves this problem. It's giving everybody that voice, letting everybody participate, which it's not the tool, it's the idea, right? Is what technology tool is giving every student a voice and allowing every student to participate in really meaningful ways and having their comments and conversations drive the conversation. There's not a lot of tools out there that actually do that. No,
and not for whole group. So I think that AI has brought in a passion for that asynchronous learning. We get asked that all the time. Like, hey, are you asynchronous? No, we're not about that. We're about kids having conversations together. There are great companies that are doing asynchronous. I'm happy to share those with you. But if you're looking for whole group conversations and kids learning together, that's what Curipod's here to solve. That's the problem that we're solving every day, giving kids a voice in their classroom.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. Thanks for sharing my passion for student voice, student-centered classrooms, and that technology should allow for that student voice to happen. And those are the tools that we should be using. So if you haven't tried Curipod, friends, what are you waiting for? You get started for free. You get a lot for free. And I happen to know that the Curipod people are really interactive. So if you have questions, you want to interact, get some help with ideas of what you're doing, make sure that you reach out. And
I'm Heather at Curipod. Yeah, Heather at Curipod.com.
There you go. Email her.
Email me.
Yeah.
I'll answer her.
Yes, I love that. I'm going to email you in a few minutes. All right, everybody, have a great break. I know that
Yes.
my passion is thinking about student voice, so it's not work for me. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to do. If your passion is making pies, please make sure you're doing that today. Please relax, enjoy your family. It goes quick. My kids are adults. Like, what the hey? Your kids are adults. Hug somebody. Just hug somebody.
Yeah. Hard
Bye.
work. Take your adult kids coffee today if you can.
Oh yeah.
That's what my kids like.
Yeah, I'm doing that. I am gonna do it. Silly coffee is what I call it.